What if understanding your customers didn't depend on what they say, but on what they feel, even when they can't put it into words? Traditional analytics measure behavior, clicks, and transactions, but they often miss the emotional signals that drive real decisions. Empathy has always been the missing link at scale, until now. With advanced AI, businesses can move beyond surface-level data to detect subtle emotional cues, patterns, and unmet needs hidden within massive streams of customer interaction. This audiobook explores how AI-powered strategic empathy makes it possible to understand customers deeply and ethically at scale, transforming how organizations listen, anticipate, and serve. When technology is used not just to analyze, but to empathize, connection becomes scalable and value becomes sustainable. Chapter 1. The Empathy Deficit in Modern Business. Empathy has always been central to meaningful human connection. Yet as businesses have grown larger, faster, and more data-driven, empathy has quietly eroded. Not because organizations don't care, but because scale breaks traditional ways of understanding people. Why growth dilutes understanding. When a business serves a few dozen customers, empathy is natural. Conversations are direct. Feedback is personal. Signals are clear. When that number grows to thousands or millions, something changes. Businesses begin to rely on surveys, dashboards, segmentation models, averages, and aggregates. These tools measure what people do, but rarely explain why they do it. The result is a widening gap between customer behavior and customer experience. The said versus felt problem. Customers often struggle to articulate their true needs. They rationalize emotional decisions. They simplify complex feelings. They respond to surveys in ways that feel socially acceptable, not emotionally accurate. This creates a dangerous illusion of understanding. What customers say they want is often a surface-level interpretation. What they feel is buried in tone, timing, hesitation, and context. Traditional analytics miss these signals entirely. Data without empathy is incomplete. Modern businesses are rich in data and poor in insight. Click-through rates show interest, but not motivation. Churn metrics show loss, but not disappointment. Conversion data shows action, but not confidence. Without empathy, data becomes descriptive rather than explanatory. The brain doesn't make decisions in spreadsheets. It makes them emotionally. The cost of shallow understanding. When businesses misunderstand customers, the consequences compound. Products miss the mark. Messaging feels generic. Personalization feels invasive instead of helpful. Customer service becomes reactive rather than supportive. Over time, customers disengage, not because alternatives are better, but because they feel unseen. This connection is rarely loud. It's quiet and gradual. Why human empathy alone no longer scales. The instinctive response is to add more human touchpoints, more support agents, more research teams, more feedback loops. But human empathy has limits. It's slow. It's inconsistent. It doesn't scale evenly. No team, no matter how skilled, can deeply understand millions of people simultaneously. This is not a failure of people. It's a limitation of biology. The opportunity hidden in the gap. Where traditional approaches fall short, a new possibility emerges. If empathy could be augmented rather than replaced, businesses could regain understanding without sacrificing scale. Not artificial sympathy, not automated scripts, but a system capable of detecting emotional patterns humans can't see alone. This is where AI enters, not as a replacement for empathy, but as its amplifier. Reframing empathy as a strategic asset. Empathy is often framed as soft, intuitive, or secondary. In reality, it is one of the most powerful strategic tools a business can possess. When customers feel understood, trust forms faster. Loyalty strengthens. Decisions become easier. Empathy reduces friction across every interaction. The core insight. The biggest challenge in modern business is not lack of data. It's lack of emotional understanding at scale. Until businesses learn to interpret not just behavior, but feeling, customer insight will remain incomplete. Solving the empathy deficit is no longer optional. It's the foundation for everything that follows. Chapter 2: How AI Begins to Understand Human Emotion. Empathy starts with recognition. Before a business can respond meaningfully to customer needs, it must first detect them. This is where artificial intelligence changes the equation, not by replacing human intuition, but by extending perception beyond what people can process alone. AI does not feel emotion, but it can learn to recognize emotional signals at scale, from data points to emotional patterns. Traditional systems treat customer interactions as isolated events. AI approaches them as patterns. Every message, pause, click, complaint, review, in return contains emotional information. Individually, these signals are weak. Together, they reveal intent, frustration, confidence, hesitation, or satisfaction. AI excels at connecting these fragments. What looks like noise to humans becomes clarity to machines trained on emotional context, moving beyond basic sentiment analysis. Early sentiment analysis categorized language as positive, negative, or neutral. That was a starting point, but it was shallow. Advanced AI now detects emotional intensity, not just polarity, shifts in tone over time, contradictions between words and behavior, subtle cues like uncertainty, urgency, or disengagement. Emotion is rarely binary. AI learns its gradients. Context is everything. A single message means little without context. AI systems analyze emotion across time, how feelings evolve, channels, how tone changes across platforms, behavior, what people do versus what they say. For example, enthusiasm followed by silence signals something very different than silence followed by urgency. Context transforms emotion from guesswork into insight. Language as an emotional signal. Words carry more than meaning. They carry feeling. AI models trained on natural language understand hesitation in phrasing, confidence in structure, emotional weight of repetition, indirect expressions of dissatisfaction. People rarely say, "I'm disappointed." They show it. AI learns to recognize these patterns consistently. Behavior speaks louder than feedback. Emotion leaks into behavior. Delays, abandonments, repeated visits, sudden exits. These actions reflect internal states. AI connects emotional signals to behavioral outcomes, revealing motivations customers never articulate. This allows businesses to understand why customers hesitate. When confidence drops, what creates reassurance? Behavior becomes emotional evidence. Scale without emotional blindness. Human teams excel at empathy in small numbers. AI excels at consistency across millions. It does not get tired. It does not rely on mood. It does not miss subtle shifts due to overload. This consistency allows emotional understanding to remain intact as scale increases. What AI still cannot do. AI does not replace human judgment. It cannot interpret meaning without guidance, decide what is ethical, understand values independently. AI provides insight. Humans provide responsibility. Strategic empathy depends on this balance. The core insight. AI's power lies not in emotion, but in recognition. By detecting emotional patterns humans cannot process alone, AI makes empathy scalable, consistent, and actionable. Understanding begins when emotion is seen clearly, and clarity is the first step toward connection. Chapter 3: Anticipating Needs Before Customers Speak. The highest form of empathy is anticipation. Responding well matters. Responding before someone asks changes everything. This is where strategic empathy becomes a competitive advantage, and where AI moves from understanding emotion to predicting intent. From reaction to prediction. Most businesses operate reactively. A customer complains, support responds. A trend appears, marketing adapts. A problem escalates, leadership intervenes. AI allows a different model, early recognition. By analyzing patterns across behavior, timing, emotion, and context, AI identifies signals that consistently appear before a need is voiced. What looks invisible in isolation becomes obvious in aggregate. Predictive behavioral signals. Customers telegraph their needs long before they articulate them. AI detects hesitation patterns before churn, exploration behavior before purchase, repeated comparison before commitment, micro-frustrations before complaints. These signals are not guesses. They're statistically reliable precursors. Prediction becomes probability, not intuition. Emotional trajectories matter more than moments. One emotional signal means little. A trend means everything. AI tracks emotional direction. Is confidence rising or declining? Is curiosity turning into doubt? Is satisfaction stabilizing or eroding? Needs emerge along trajectories, not snapshots. Understanding direction allows intervention at the right moment. Not too early, not too late. Anticipation without intrusion. True strategic empathy never feels invasive. The goal is not to expose or exploit. It is to support. AI-driven anticipation works best when it removes friction before it's noticed, offers clarity at moments of uncertainty, simplifies decisions already forming. Customers should feel understood, not observed. The experience feels seamless because the system adapts quietly. Use cases where anticipation changes outcomes. Predictive empathy improves. Customer retention by identifying risk before departure. Product design by spotting unmet needs early. Customer support by intervening before frustration peaks. Sales alignment by recognizing readiness instead of pressure. The result is fewer interruptions and more alignment. Trust is built in the margins. Customers remember how a brand behaves before something goes wrong. Anticipation communicates. We're paying attention. We respect your time. We understand what matters. This builds trust faster than any message ever could. The boundary that must be respected. Prediction without ethics becomes manipulation. Strategic empathy requires clear intent to help, not coerce. Transparency in how systems adapt. Human oversight in sensitive decisions. AI should anticipate needs, not manufacture them. The core insight. Empathy reaches its peak when it no longer waits. AI enables businesses to move from listening to foreseeing, from reacting to supporting in advance. When customers feel understood before they speak, connection deepens. And connection, at scale, becomes lasting value. Chapter 4. Strategic Empathy in Action at Scale. Empathy proves its value only when it changes outcomes. Understanding emotion and anticipating needs mean little unless they translate into real-world impact. This is where strategic empathy stops being a concept and becomes an operating system, one that reshapes how organizations serve, design, and grow. Scaling empathy without losing humanity. Traditionally, empathy shrinks as scale grows. As customer numbers increase, interactions become standardized, scripted, and emotionally flat. AI reverses this pattern by allowing personalization without fragmentation. Strategic empathy at scale means millions of customers feel individually understood. Responses adapt without losing consistency. Emotional nuance survives automation. The system doesn't treat people as averages. It recognizes patterns within individuality. Customer service that prevents escalation. Most customer service exists to manage damage. AI-driven empathy shifts the focus to prevention. By monitoring emotional signals in real time, systems can flag frustration before it hardens into anger, route emotionally sensitive cases to human agents, adjust tone and pacing automatically during interactions. This reduces conflict, improves resolution time, and protects brand trust. Customers feel heard before they feel ignored. Product design guided by unspoken demand. Innovation often fails because it listens too late. AI-powered empathy reveals repeated unmet expectations. Workarounds customers create themselves. Features people want but don't ask for. By analyzing emotional reactions across usage patterns, AI highlights friction that never appears in surveys. Products improve not because customers complained, but because the system understood them. Personalization that feels natural, not forced. Personalization becomes powerful when it respects context. Strategic empathy allows experiences to adapt based on emotional readiness, cognitive load, confidence levels. This means less aggressive selling during uncertainty, clear guidance during hesitation, space when autonomy matters. The result feels intuitive, not algorithmic. Sales alignment through emotional timing. Great salespeople read the room. AI does the same at scale. By tracking engagement patterns and emotional signals, systems can identify when curiosity becomes intent, when pressure would backfire, when reassurance matters more than urgency. Sales shifts from persuasion to alignment. Customers move forward because it feels right, not because they were pushed. Internal teams benefit too. Strategic empathy isn't only external. AI can improve internal operations by identifying burnout signals in communication patterns, detecting disengagement before productivity drops, supporting leaders with emotionally informed insights. Organizations that practice empathy internally execute better externally. Culture reflects capability. Consistency builds trust over time. Trust grows through repeated emotional accuracy. When customers consistently experience appropriate tone, timely support, relevant solutions, they stop questioning intent. Consistency at scale is rare and incredibly valuable. The responsibility of influence. Empathy increases influence. With that comes responsibility. Strategic empathy must prioritize long-term relationships over short-term gains. Avoid exploiting emotional vulnerability. Preserve customer dignity in every interaction. Ethics are not optional. They are the foundation, the core insight. Empathy becomes transformative when it operates continuously, quietly, and correctly across millions of moments. AI enables empathy to scale without becoming cold, mechanical, or generic. When understanding shapes every interaction, growth becomes a natural outcome, not a forced objective. Chapter 5: Building an AI-powered empathy engine. Strategic empathy does not happen by accident. It is built deliberately, systematically, and with intention. Behind every empathetic AI experience is an engine designed to listen deeply, interpret accurately, and respond responsibly. This chapter breaks down how that engine is created. Empathy starts with the right data. AI cannot understand what it cannot see. Strategic empathy requires rich, diverse, and meaningful inputs, not just surface-level metrics. Effective empathy engines draw from customer conversations and support interactions, behavioral data across platforms and time, feedback, reviews, and open-ended responses, contextual signals like timing, frequency, and change. The goal is not more data. It's relevant data that reflects real human experience. Quantitative and qualitative must work together. Numbers show patterns. Language shows emotion. Empathy emerges when both are connected. AI systems must be trained to interpret what customers do, what customers say, what customers avoid, what changes over time. When qualitative insight meets quantitative scale, understanding becomes precise. Training AI to recognize emotional nuance. Emotion is subtle. Training matters. Empathy-focused AI must learn. Cultural and linguistic differences. Context-specific emotional expressions. Industry-specific expectations. Variations in tone, intent, and urgency. This requires ongoing refinement, not one-time setup. Empathy improves as systems learn continuously. Human guidance is non-negotiable. AI does not define empathy. Humans do. Strategic empathy engines require clear ethical boundaries, human oversight for sensitive decisions, regular review of outcomes and bias. Humans teach AI what care looks like. Without this guidance, accuracy may increase, but empathy disappears. Integration across the customer journey. Empathy fails when it lives in silos. AI insights must flow across marketing, sales, customer support, product development. When emotional intelligence is shared, the organization responds as one system, not fragmented departments. This creates continuity, not confusion. Designing responses, not just insights. Understanding alone does not help customers. Empathy engines must translate insight into adjusted messaging, better timing, improved experiences, appropriate escalation to humans. Action completes empathy. The system should not only recognize emotion, but respond in ways that reduce friction and increase trust. Testing for emotional accuracy. Performance metrics must evolve. Empathy-driven systems are evaluated by emotional resolution, not just speed. Trust retention, not just conversion. Satisfaction over time, not one-off outcomes. If customers feel misunderstood, the system has failed, no matter how efficient it appears. Scalability without emotional drift. As systems grow, empathy must remain intact. This requires continuous retraining, regular human calibration, feedback loops that prioritize emotional accuracy. Scale should amplify empathy, not dilute it. The core insight. Strategic empathy is engineered, not improvised. When AI is built with the right data, guided by human values, and integrated across the organization, empathy becomes reliable, scalable, and powerful. This is how understanding turns into infrastructure, and connection becomes a lasting advantage. Chapter 6: Ethics, Trust, and the Limits of Empathetic AI. Empathy without ethics is manipulation. As AI becomes better at understanding emotion and anticipating needs, the responsibility of how that insight is used grows just as fast. Strategic empathy only works when trust remains intact, and trust is fragile. This chapter defines the boundaries that protect both customers and organizations. Why emotional insight requires restraint. Understanding how someone feels gives influence. That influence can support and guide, or pressure and exploit. The difference lies in intent. Ethical strategic empathy aims to reduce friction and increase clarity, not to push people into decisions they would later regret. If the outcome benefits only the organization, empathy has failed. The line between assistance and manipulation. Manipulation disguises control as care. Empathy does not rush decisions. It does not manufacture urgency. It does not exploit vulnerability. Ethical systems are designed to inform rather than coerce, offer options rather than pressure, respect hesitation rather than override it. When AI encourages actions misaligned with customer interest, trust erodes quickly. Transparency builds psychological safety. Customers don't need technical explanations, but they do need honesty. Trust grows when people understand why experiences feel personalized, how their data is being used, what control they have over it. Transparency reduces fear and increases confidence. People accept adaptation when it feels fair. Bias, the silent threat to empathy. AI learns from history, and history is imperfect. Unchecked systems can misinterpret cultural expressions, favor dominant groups, reinforce existing inequalities. True empathy requires diverse training data, regular bias audits, human review of edge cases. Fairness is not automatic. It must be maintained. Human oversight is essential. Certain decisions should never be automated. Emotionally sensitive moments, conflict, loss, crisis, require human judgment. AI should assist, not replace. Flag, not decide. Support, not dominate. Empathy collapses when people feel trapped inside systems they cannot reach or question. Data dignity matters. Just because emotion can be detected doesn't mean it should be stored indefinitely. Ethical empathy respects data minimization, clear consent, purpose limitation. Customers are not data sets. They are partners in trust. Long-term trust beats short-term gains. Emotionally intelligent manipulation may work once. It never works forever. Strategic empathy prioritizes relationship longevity, brand credibility, sustainable growth. Trust compounds. Exploitation collapses. The core insight. Empathy is powerful precisely because it is fragile. AI can extend understanding, but only ethics preserve connection. When organizations respect emotional boundaries, strategic empathy becomes a source of trust, not fear. And trust is the most valuable outcome of all. Chapter 7. Human-AI Collaboration, where empathy becomes stronger. AI extends empathy. Humans give it meaning. The most effective systems are not fully automated and not purely human. They are collaborative, designed so technology amplifies human judgment instead of replacing it. This chapter explores how empathy becomes stronger when humans and AI work together. What humans do better than machines. AI recognizes patterns. Humans understand nuance. People excel at moral judgment, contextual interpretation, cultural sensitivity, handling emotionally complex situations. Empathy is not just recognition, it is response. And responses often require values, not just data. What AI does better than humans? AI excels where humans struggle. Processing massive volumes of interaction, detecting subtle emotional shifts over time, maintaining consistency without fatigue, identifying patterns invisible at the individual level. AI sees the forest. Humans understand the trees. Together, they create clarity, designing the collaboration intentionally. Effective collaboration does not happen by default. It requires clear handoff points between AI and humans, defined roles for emotional escalation, training teams to interpret AI insights responsibly. AI should guide attention, not dictate action. The final decision must remain human, empowering teams with emotional intelligence. When teams receive emotionally informed insights, they operate with greater precision. Instead of reacting blindly, they understand why a customer is frustrated, when reassurance matters, how tone should shift. This reduces burnout and increases confidence. Empathy supports both sides of the interaction, avoiding over-automation. Automation becomes dangerous when it removes choice. Empathetic systems must allow human override, enable intervention at critical moments, preserve flexibility. Customers should never feel trapped inside a process with no human presence. Access creates safety. Training humans to work with empathy data. Insights only help when people understand them. Teams must be trained to interpret emotional indicators correctly. Avoid overconfidence in predictions. Respect uncertainty and variability. Empathy is probabilistic, not absolute. Humility keeps it accurate. The feedback loop that improves everything. Humans correct AI. AI informs humans. This feedback loop refines emotional accuracy, reduces bias, improves response quality over time. Learning never stops. The system evolves alongside the people who use it. The core insight. Strategic empathy reaches its full potential when technology and humanity collaborate. AI scales awareness. Humans ensure wisdom. When both work together, empathy becomes not only powerful, but trustworthy, adaptive, and deeply human.
Chapter 9. Measuring what truly matters in empathetic systems. What gets measured shapes behavior. For decades, businesses measured efficiency, speed, and conversion. But strategic empathy requires a different lens, one that captures how people feel, not just what they do. This chapter explores how to evaluate empathy without reducing it to empty metrics. Why traditional metrics fall short. Clicks, completion rates, and response times reveal outcomes, but not experience. A fast response can still feel cold. A successful sale can still feel pressured. A resolved issue can still leave emotional residue. Empathy operates beneath surface metrics. If you only measure behavior, you miss meaning. Emotional signals as performance indicators. Strategic empathy introduces new indicators of success, such as reduction in repeated friction, decline in emotional escalation, increase in confident decision-making, stability of engagement over time. These signals reflect trust, not just activity. Trust is the real currency. Longitudinal insight over instant feedback. Emotion unfolds across time. One positive interaction does not guarantee loyalty. One negative moment does not equal failure. AI enables longitudinal analysis, tracking emotional consistency across the entire relationship. What matters is not how customers feel once, but how they feel repeatedly. Consistency builds confidence. Listening beyond explicit feedback. Most customers don't leave reviews. Strategic empathy listens to behavioral changes after key interactions, drop-offs that follow emotional moments, silence where engagement once existed. Absence is information. AI helps interpret what customers choose not to say. Internal alignment as a metric. Empathy must be felt internally to work externally. Organizations can measure clarity in handoffs between teams, reduction in emotionally escalated internal conflicts, confidence of frontline teams using empathy insights. When teams feel supported, customers feel it too. Measuring trust without exploiting it. Trust should never be tested through manipulation. Ethical measurement focuses on voluntary engagement, sustained participation, reduced need for pressure-based tactics. When trust increases, persuasion becomes unnecessary. Using measurement to improve, not control. Metrics should guide reflection, not enforce rigidity. Empathy-aware organizations use insight to refine tone, improve timing, remove unnecessary friction. Measurement supports learning, not surveillance. The core insight. Strategic empathy cannot be reduced to numbers alone, but it can be evaluated through patterns of trust, ease, and continuity. When measurement evolves from control to understanding, empathy remains authentic. And authenticity is what keeps connection alive at scale. Chapter 10. Strategic Empathy as a Long-Term Advantage. Empathy is not a feature. It is a way of operating. When powered by AI and guided by human values, strategic empathy stops being a tactic and becomes a long-term advantage, one that compounds quietly over time. This chapter brings everything together by showing how empathetic systems shape resilient, future-ready organizations. From optimization to alignment. Many businesses focus on optimization, faster funnels, higher conversion, tighter margins. Strategic empathy shifts the goal to alignment. Alignment between what customers need and what businesses offer, what technology enables and what ethics allow, what scales efficiently and what feels human. When alignment is strong, performance improves naturally. Less friction, less resistance, more trust. Why empathy compounds over time. Short-term tactics spike results. Empathy builds momentum. Each emotionally accurate interaction reinforces trust, reduces future friction, lowers the cost of persuasion. Over time, customers require less convincing and less reassurance. They already believe. Empathy as a competitive moat. Technology becomes commoditized quickly. Empathy does not. What's difficult to copy is deep emotional understanding across time, consistent, respectful adaptation, ethical use of insight without exploitation. Strategic empathy creates differentiation that competitors cannot replicate with tools alone. Organizational maturity through empathy. Empathy reshapes internal decision-making. Leaders begin to ask, how will this feel at scale? Where might this create hidden friction? Are we helping or pressuring? These questions prevent damage before it happens. Empathy becomes a form of risk management, preparing for a more intelligent future. As AI grows more capable, the question is no longer whether systems will understand emotion, but how responsibly they will use that understanding. Organizations that invest early in ethical, empathetic frameworks will adapt faster and earn more trust as expectations rise. The future rewards those who understand people deeply, not just data efficiently. The quiet power of being understood. People don't remember every interaction. They remember how consistently they felt. Respected, supported, clear-headed, in control. Strategic empathy creates these feelings repeatedly, without spectacle. That quiet consistency builds loyalty no campaign can buy. The core insight. Growth driven by pressure is fragile. Growth driven by understanding is durable. When AI scales empathy and humans protect its intent, organizations don't just grow faster, they grow better. And in a world overwhelmed by automation, being genuinely understood becomes the most valuable experience of all.